You go to 2A now, and it seems like the big story is realignment, both Division I and Division II. Bosqueville Crawford, they get the big monkey off their back. San Saba's gone. They're in Region 1. What do you think of District 7?
I think that from a realignment perspective, Bosqueville and Crawford have got to be just doing jumping jacks. They got to be so excited to just be rid of San Saba, which has been a personal. They have personally victimized them the past couple of years. And look, it really opens things up, I think, for them when you take a look now at kind of the vacuum there in Region 3, in Region 2. Who's the best team in Region 2? Is it Lindsay? I mean, Lindsay's good, but I don't think they're necessarily a team that's a world beater. And then after that, you're starting to get in that conversation of Crawford. And I really think that even with a new coach there at Crawford, I think that they are going to be able to make some noise this year, especially because of what they bring back at the skill position spots. This is a team that if they can kind of strengthen up that offensive line and the linebacker core, I think that Crawford's going to be a threat to win the entire region. But Bosqueville is not far behind them. I really like what Bosqueville has coming back, especially on the offensive line. I think that, they bring back 17 starters, and we can talk about bringing back guys in the secondary, guys on linebacker core, receivers, things like that. I'm looking at the offensive line. This is an experienced offensive line that is going to be able to grind it out. And when you talk about when Bosqueville has had great years, it's been because their offensive line has put things together in a meaningful way. I think that Bosqueville has a chance to make some noise. And make no mistake, when we're talking about that, we're talking about if you win that district, you are, I would say, no worse than co-favorite to win the region. There are other teams in that region. Lindsay, I mentioned. I think that, a team like Wolf City or Bogota Rivercrest over in District 6, maybe a team like that. But overall, if you win District 7, I think you are no worse than co-favorite to make it to a state semifinal.
Then you look at District 8, the district they get paired with in the first round. If you're David Haynes and Marlin, are you doing backflips with this alignment?
Yeah, I think that overall this was a pretty fair draw for them. When you take a look at what they're able to put together, and look, 2-8 last year is obviously not what Marlin is looking for, but I think that moving into this district is going to do them a lot of good. Especially the bottom of that district, Cayuga, Carrington, Axtell have struggled in recent years. Dawson is on the rise. It's a program that I've been really impressed with, and Italy is a team that I think starts the year as the favorite, especially with 19 starters coming back. But with Marlin, I think this is a seasoned squad that if they're able to put things together down the stretch, especially in those key district games you got to win against Cayuga, Carrington, and Axtell. You do that, you're looking at a return to the playoffs. Then
you go to Region 3. They move Holland back from Region 4. Problem, you send them to Region 3. That's where San Augustine lives. You guys have the Hornets coming off their best season in school history with everybody they lost finishing third in that district. You look at District 12, and you've got Rosebud, Lot Moody, Bruce Valetti on the outside, Holland dropping down. What is the story here?
Yeah, District 12's a bit of a mess. And what I think is really interesting is I've used the word stratified before, but I do think that there's a relatively decent stratification here. I look at especially at those top three that we have predicted in Dave Campbell's Texas football with Thorndale, Hearn, and Holland. And I think that there is just a lot of there's a lot of parity there. I think it's really hard to separate those teams because of what they have coming back and the different styles that they bring back. Look, Thorndale is a team that's going to be young, but they feel like they've got great leadership on their squad. Holland is a team that thinks their defense is going to be their path forward, but they do have to replace 10 starters offensively. That is not going to be fun. Hearn is the experienced one of the bunch there, but they were also the team that won the fewest games last year. So which of those, take your pick. And then there is a really interesting battle for fourth. And I think when you take a look at Bruceville Eddy and Thrall, and even a team like Moody and heck, a team like Rosebud Lott. I know they were winless last year, but a team that has a lot of good skill pieces coming back. It is going to be a mad dash and it is going to be a game of musical chairs for that fourth playoff spot, because I think that you've got those top three, and those top three are pretty well kind of separated from the pack. But those next four, I also think are really bunched up. And if whoever wins those key district games, I think are going to be interesting. But it's going to get that last playoff spot. What I do think is going to be interesting is for Holland and Bruce Valetti. It is a move east. It is a teams that they are maybe a little bit less used to seeing in past years, especially a couple of them. That's going to make things very interesting down the stretch.
You go to Division II, District 10. I think that's where your eyes automatically go when you look at Region 3. You've got Mart and Bremond. How good is the top of this district?
It's the best in the region, and it's one of the very best 1-2 punches in the state. I mean, we're talking about a team that we have ranked number 1 in Mart and a team ranked number 7 in Bremond. That's hard to top. There's not a ton of districts that have 2 top 10 teams in them, especially at the small school level. And look, at this point, Mart needs no introduction. 3 consecutive state championships, and honestly, it would be they start the year as the prohibitive favorite to win a 4th straight state championship, simply because this was a dangerous team. And now this is a dangerous and experienced team, and a team that's used to being on the big stage. They're not gonna wilt under pressure. And this year, I think, is going to be the kind of thing. From the outside looking in, and I don't want to put too much pressure on Kevin Hoffman, although I'm happy to do it. This has a chance to be one of the best Mart teams ever, and that's saying something. What they have coming back is truly remarkable when you're talking about not only the skill, but the experience. This is a potentially historic Mart team. They got to get there first. And Bremond's not going to do them any favors, because this is a really talented Bremond team that I think people forgot about them after the Rashad Paul years. They are back, and they are going to be very dangerous. They got experience at the quarterback spot. They got 3 of their 5 offensive linemen back. This is a team that I think has a chance to really challenge Mart for the district championship and therefore the regional championship. Now, make no mistake, when you take a look at Region 3, it got tougher. You look at District 11, and they wouldn't see them in by district, but Tenaha moving in is going to be very dangerous. Lovelady, I think, is going to be very dangerous as well. District 12, I think Evadale has a brutal running game that is going to be very difficult to contend with. So it's not going to be easy for either of those teams, for Mart or Bremond. But I also think that playing one another is going to represent the biggest challenge they're going to see in the region. I think Mart and Bremond are the top 2 teams in Region 3. I think that I fully expect to see one of them playing for a state championship down the road.
Then you go to the other end of the spectrum, a team in our area that's been struggling for the last few years. For a little while, it was a revolving door at head coach. They keep Brian Cosma this year. Bartlett gets moved into District 13. But you guys still have them struggling this year. What's the key for the Bulldogs?
The biggest thing for me is that you mentioned the consistency at the coaching position, and I think that's so important. It really is, just to have the same voice in the room, especially in an offseason that was so tumultuous as this one. Having that consistency in the voice, I think, is going to be important. Most importantly for Bartlett is that, and this is kind of a key for all of the Division II teams to Division II, is just getting the numbers up. This is a team that right now they suited up. They had 16 lettermen last year. Plain and simple, that's just not going to cut it. They've got to get those numbers up, because when you get those numbers up, that is when you are going to be able to have that kind of quality depth that you need to sustain a decent season. Look, I think that the arrow is pointing up for Bartlett. They bring back a ton of experience from last year's squad. They bring back 8 starters on both sides of the ball. And I think the senior class has a chance to really make some noise. I think they're going to get a couple of wins. I don't think they're quite ready to make that leap into playoff contention. I think that right now, especially at the top of that district, Burton's going to be an awful big chore to deal with. But I do think that just consistency in what these players are hearing, I think that's going to do Bartlett a lot of good.
And that wraps it up for 2A. Next up, your favorite kind of football. We've got some 6-man football coming next.